All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Ayurvedic Therapist. I'm really excited today because I have my really good friend. Actually, I think that she's my one person to call if the world is falling apart. I,
Same. I
I
want
hope
you by my
that
side.
I hope you all have one of those people. Um, Kelly. And Kelly has just recently redeveloped a spa studio in her home in Guelph that you really need to check out. It's so beautiful. And I've known Kelly for years. We are one of the original studio owners when Moto was Moksha Yoga, and uh, we used to go to AGMs, and there was like 10 of us, right? Like five of us, even like 10 of us. And so we go back years. Like how many years? Like 15 years. And so
Yeah.
as we grow and as we go through different phases of life, um, our practice changes, our, state of being changes, our lives change. But I think one
Mhm.
thing that we both have in common, Kelly, is that we are so thirsty and hungry to learn. And it's like we have opened up this door of what is next? Like, show me, teach me.
Yeah.
And when me and you talk, or when we meet up for tea or whatever, lunch, um, I'm like, oh my God, I need to record this conversation because it's so incredible. It's like our minds, overlap, and there's so much goodness that comes out of that. You're so knowledgeable, Kelly, and I just want you to maybe introduce yourself for the listeners of the Ayurvedic podcast. But before we do that, I just want to let everyone know that this is going to be a reoccurring event now where Paris and Kelly are going to have tea once a month, uh, hopefully the beginning of each month on Fridays, and just have a conversation about the world events or what has come up, or what we've learned even that month. So we're
Mhm.
hoping that you will benefit from that. But now I'm gonna let you introduce yourself and your
Yeah.
background and what you're up to these days, Kelly.
Yeah. Thank you, Paris. And that is, the sentiment's the same. If you were the last, the world's crumbling. I want you by my side. Yeah. And it just, as you were speaking, kind of saying our evolution and our education and in those where we kind of land and how we've deepened our practice over the years and have stayed in different relationships as we're learning. We always kind of soundboard everything off each other. And one thing that kind of always inspires me is that the um, congruency. Like I'm in osteopathy and I'm very, I love science. There's good science and bad science. So it has its, observation, trial and error. Sometimes I think when people hear the word science, they think it's the law. And actually, science is they base it on a hypothesis, they try it, and then they see what lands, and then they build on that. And then what they do is they discover principles that are true. And then those principles are the sound part. And what I find with principles is that no matter what area or topic you're talking in, that those principles translate. Like if I'm speaking about osteopathy, when you start to speak about Ayurveda, there's this whisper of truth that it's a different language, but it's the same principle of healing. So the no matter in someone's path, like whatever they choose as a healing modality, that one, like it resonates with you. And that's the language that you're listening to tune into that observation, trial, healing, and growth. And I heard this quote the other day that was, I'm just going to read it so I don't butcher it. It was, the progress is in the process, and the process happens over time. and it's from the new book that just came out called Practical Optimism. And that, well, we don't get to be in this space because like once you notice something that you want to change, like whether it's in your mental health or your metabolism or your state of being, like it didn't just instantly happen, it happened over time and space. And that's what we need to heal, time and space, when you start a new practice, to see what works and kind of fine tune it. So I feel like my journey from, like, to circle back to the history that you want to talk about, which I very much as a kid loved animals. And I just thought animals is like, I didn't even take a second look at people. It was just animals were such my focus. I just found them so beautiful to work with. And I thought I wanted to be a horse massage therapist. And then I was going to go to college for that. And I thought, well, to be, too legit to quit, I'm going to go get my RMT license and then I'll do the 1 year horse program. And what I found when I started that program kind of blew my mind, because I had no intention of being a body worker for people. It was going to be all healing for animals. And the science and the way we're put together and the different systems in the body and that whole ritual of self-care just kind of blew my mind. And then I was all in. And then it became just about learning about the body and all the layers in there. And after, I mean, even before I had my massage license, my mom had some really great success with hives, so cranial sacral therapy. And so I took some cranial sacral with Upledger, it was at the time. And then it was an osteopath teaching. And I thought, oh, who would go to school for 6 years? Certainly not me. I'm a hands-on, I'm practical, I want to get working. And lo and behold, after taking many, many alternative things, I circled back to osteopathy and finally wanted to start that. I have been to 3 different osteopathic schools. Did not complete them, but kind of sampled, because within a profession, there's always the nuance within that paradigm of how people approach things, even though there's principles that keep the healing. And so I finally landed in my teacher's school. Now that I'm just finishing that program. Well, you could call it 7 years now because of the pandemic, but generally it's a 5 year program. And now I'm just in my final year for that. And I'm going to complete it with my school that's called the Ontario Academy of Progressive Osteopathy. And they're amazing. Out of all the schools, they have the teaching of complexity, and the teachers that he gets in they're not in the faculty, they're teachers that he's found around the world. And we get such exposure to 30-year experience teachers that really, like, it's incredible. It's I don't it's so profound when you have an experienced teacher, and that school really is the next level for osteopathy and bringing back really, or even just training really great osteopaths to work with physicians and other modalities too. Like, the language is to be integrated, and that's something that, because sometimes I find in the holistic world, right, you're either in the natural camp or you're in the allopathic camp. And the wisdom is, do not throw anything out. You listen and learn everywhere.
I
Yeah.
love that. Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Kelly. That's
You're
such a
welcome.
beautiful intro to where life has led you and your knowledge. When you speak, we can really hear the layers of your knowledge. And that's kind of what I want to talk to you about today, is because, uh, you know, you're right. Like, one thing you said with the holistic world, and then is it like this big line in between? And I really don't like that. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that the future for well-being and healthcare is when we actually
Mm-hmm.
see that we're all needed. And there's all these different tools and modalities that come together that help one another to create that
Mm-hmm.
wholeness and wellness. I can kind of reminded me of this one of the shlokas in Ayurveda. The shlokas are like the poems that are in Ayurveda, and that's how the Ayurvedic text is taught. And it says that always honor something like always honor the medicine of your time and always
Mm-hmm.
work with the whatever knowledge, new knowledge has
Wow,
come, new science.
that's
And
beautiful.
like it's
Yeah.
like it all goes hand in hand. It's not like only osteopathy works or only Ayurveda works or don't go
Yeah.
to your Western medicine doctor. Unfortunately,
If
what we
yeah.
see, yeah, exactly
Yeah.
what we see now is that, um, it's some of the doctors, like, I mean, there are really good doctors out there too that keep an open mind, but unfortunately, the way the doctors are trained right now is very one way and it's very
Mhm,
closed-minded and it's very pharmaceutical focused. And
mhm.
so we can't find healing in that. It's just going to be a band-aids or it's gonna be healing only when the person is in the sixth stage of disease according to
Or
Ayurveda,
like
which is
integration, right? Like,
integration. Yeah.
yeah.
So like how beautiful would it be if there is integration? Another thing that you said that I want to kind of repeat and bring back is um having all the layers of knowledge in the practice. So
Mhm,
when people come to you, Kelly,
mhm,
it's not that you just took this course in osteopathy or you just became an RMT and now like that's what you know.
mhm,
It's like the years of our knowledge and our practice
mhm,
shows up in the way like you touch someone's body, and
mhm.
it's really hard to describe that.
Yeah, the
Um,
listening. Mhm,
Yeah, and so um, I just recently had an experience with one of my clients, and she's worked with me for a while, but she was kind of taken aback because she got to know my work a little bit better at the retreat, and she was kind of taken aback at the fact that I was helping people with depression, and I was helping focus on more mental health now, and she was like, "I'm here for the Ayurveda." I didn't know you did all these other things. And, you know, my response to her was that I have many like tools.
tools.
It's like the Buddha said, I'm I'm not the moon. You're the moon. I only show you the fingers to the moon, right? You are the
Yeah.
moon. You are the light. You are the wisdom.
Mhm,
And so to me, any more tools I have in my toolbox, the
mhm.
more I can understand, the more I can see the layers in people, and the more I can bring in the holistic way of well-being. Because
Yeah,
the
in a
truth is
really
that, yeah,
prescriptive way, right? When you know that nuance of complexity in those layers, then when you see someone, you get to be really specific about where the starting point is and what tool you use.
yeah. And I mean, we're
Mhm,
not just a mind, we're not just a body, we're not just our
mhm.
spirit. We are
Yeah,
all of those things together, and they're always harmoniously working together. So how can we
mhm.
separate that? I mean, that was only separated in the 1900s.
And you can really see how the science is catching up now, especially with gut health and the gut-brain axis, and even Parkinson's that travels up the vagus nerve, or like travels up the vagus nerve to your brain, like that that um that kind of double pathway of like when you feel like when you were saying about the mind is like you never know what's going to be your medicine out of all the tools you have. So I always like to try to encourage to keep people open to, and my son, I think he said it the other day because I was really focusing on uh on like, making food like Ayurveda, everything's fresh and you want like I'm clearing my histamines right now. So like everything's fresh and then he's like, you're really focusing from this angle, but maybe you can do it from another part. Like it was the way he said it. I'm like, I know what you mean. Like, do the nervous system or these other things. And it's just like, I know the wisdom bomb you're dropping, even though the words aren't sciencey. And I'm like, I hear you. And it's so nice when loved ones are around you and they notice. So even when you start to work with clients a lot, then you get to really know them. And then it unfolds together. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Your son's so wise, of course, because you raised him. But yeah, we do tend to get really stuck, right?
Hmm.
Like intermediate fasting, or I'm doing this diet, or
Keto.
I'm doing keto, and that's it. It's like that's the
Like,
only thing.
yeah.
And it's not.
Yeah, no. And I totally get like when I take a course and I'm like, yeah, I just immerse myself, right? Like it bathes over me and that's like all I can see because I feel like it's such good mm, I'm going to be able to help people with it. It's such a good approach. But then once you land and you digest it, your world broadens again so that you narrowing to really integrate something. And then once it's integrated, you can add another layer of, another simple tool to add to that complexity. It's like
Yeah.
simple but complex.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And
Mm.
so, thank you so much for bringing a little bit of science into all of our discussions. I'm really, really super pumped and thrilled about your knowledge being on the show.
Thank you.
And can you just tell us before we end this session, which is just,
Mhm.
about like introducing you to the
Yeah. Yeah.
audience and um, about some of the topics that maybe we'll be talking about as we go. I think for me, I would like it to be, and that if you're listening to this and you would like us to speak about a particular topic, please leave a comment and we will definitely do that. But for me, I would like this to be kind of tea time and Paris and Gilly are just chit-chatting because that's how we usually do it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all this truth comes out um and more of like easy everyday like
Hmm.
we have layers of knowledge. We have all these different modalities like osteopathy and Ayurveda and mental health and how does that show up in our lives,
Hmm.
and how can we offer that to your everyday life if you're listening to this?
Hmm.
So I wonder if you
Yeah.
want to add anything to that.
Um, hmm. I um I think maybe within that kind of broad range of discussion of the topics like that will unfold within what you said. I think the kind of that curiosity and philosophy that comes with those layers are we can never heal from like in the same mindset that we started at, that we kind of have to let go of that. And sometimes I feel like in that kind of when you're discussing about those layers, maybe it would be nice to do the foundations of like the mind and the emotional regulation and those things that are kind of precursors to, body work, or online programs, like those things that are set up so they set you up for success. So what are the beginning layers that it takes, like the context to heal, like when people are like, no, I'm really ready now, like I'm really ready to do it. And like when someone says I'm really ready, I know that it means that they've suffered enough and they're motivated enough and their peace is disrupted enough that that disruption is the beginning of the whispers of the path to how they need to heal and the directions they need to take. So maybe
Beautiful.
bringing in, yeah,
Yeah,
those.
I love that. Yeah, I get a lot of that, in my clients. They're like, okay, I'm ready. Teach me. And I
Yeah,
feel like, I took the whole pandemic basically to write my course
yeah.
because I was like, you come to me for your gut health or your skin rash, but actually, this has nothing to do with your skin.
Yeah.
It has everything to do with the relationships you're in. So let's go deep,
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and setting up that foundation, that is so, so important. And if you look back at the way we have learned things, it has always been like this foundation, one pillar, two pillar, three pillar, and then you
Hmm.
rise up from that and you create your own way of teaching or being.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah,
also want to
definitely.
say that, the importance of having a guide and mentor and a
Hmm.
teacher, that yes, you can just go to Dr. Google and Google things, but
Yeah.
you're not gonna you're not gonna learn the same way. So we're super excited to start
Yeah.
this conversation with
And
you.
and
And
and kind of that exposure, right? Like when you hear someone talk, like, because
yeah,
I'm always like, I'm such a DIY woodworker, like self-taught because I like to work with my hands. Um, but there's like the things that pique your curiosity by listening through podcasts or a friend that you're like, oh, they have their shit together. There was a process for them to get there. So we learn by mirroring. So it's like all the people and then there definitely is a difference, like between going to a practitioner and someone with um not that education, but then there's the wisdom from that person that's living the way you want, inspired. There's experience there. And when you get a practitioner, you get experience and the wisdom together, like in a different way, more because it's just the education, really. Sometimes I feel, but I always want to encourage people to start where you are and like whatever your gut is telling you, right? That inclination, like listening to the words, whatever word hooks your ears, it's your unconscious hooking into like, go that way, go that way. So it's like I learn so much from my clients, like back and forth in that experience that gives me the experience then when I have someone else in front of me to do, a better and better job at zeroing in on what's the first step that would support them in the best way so they don't get overwhelmed.
yeah, no, that's
Mhm.
so, so important.
Yeah.
In Ayurveda, we teach that as like your dharma, like if there is like a word that clicks, or I can teach you for hours, and if there's one thing that really sticks to you, that
Hmm.
is your thing. Go look deeper
Yeah.
into that.
Yeah.
That's your finger to the moon.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And leave the rest alone, you don't
Yeah.
have to know it all.
Yeah. Exactly. Right.
So thank you so much, Kelly, for today. And I'm gonna leave a link to Kelly's website below this video. So if you are in Guelph area, please definitely check out her beautiful new spa with all the wood that she has done by her own hands, which blows my mind. Um,
Thank
or just
you.
check out her work on her website. And we'll see you, Kelly, next month for our first big discussion.
I can't wait. Thank you, Paris. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.